We are excited to have you joining us today for this webinar hosted by Education Plus in partnership with Microsoft and I2E. We are going to be talking about a very important and relevant topic that has been hitting the news in our education systems for the last year. And that is enhancing teaching and learning with AI. And specifically today, we're talking about Microsoft Copilot, which is a go-to tool that I've started using every single day for maybe the past 9 months. It used to be called Bing Chat. So if you're familiar with Bing Chat, we've just rebranded in the community, and Microsoft has decided to call all of their generative AI tools Copilot. So we're going to be digging into that a little bit more today. Just some little reminders about our live event. We're so glad you're here with us. Please do use the Q&A to post up your questions and interact. We have a team. Stuart and Amelia are moderating those questions, and then I'll be checking in with them as well. So we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to see your questions answered throughout the call. This is also being recorded, so just a heads up. I know we're not allowing cameras and mics for participants at a live event, but just so you're aware, this is being recorded. So if I give a shout out to your name or something like that, then that will be captured in the call recording. I would like to say hello. My name is Becky Keene. I'm an educator, an author, and an education consultant in the Seattle area of the United States. And that basically means that I like to share my opinions about what I think is best in education. And I get to work with school systems all over the world, with educators and also with ed tech companies like Microsoft Education to ensure that the things that I know are best for teaching and learning in 21st century learning design are happening all over the world. My contact information is on screen. You can get in touch with me on your favorite social media platform. You can also subscribe to me on Wakelet, and I'll put this up again at the end of the presentation, but just so you're aware, my AI resources and tips Wakelet collection was my top clicked on collection in January, and I make sure to post new resources almost daily to Wakelet. So you can go ahead and subscribe to me if you want to get that information delivered to your inbox. Let's jump into today's agenda. We are going to be talking about, of course, Microsoft Copilot's basic functionalities. We are also going to explore some of the different modes and features of Microsoft Copilot specifically. We are going to dig into some effective prompting and look at the results. And finally, I clicked and almost clicked out of the presentation. And finally, we'll be creating some images and looking at some image searches as well. So I hope that everyone who's joining today gets a little something new, even if you've used Copilot previously. But that's kind of one of my first questions. So I would love to hear from you in the chat. You can be posting how you currently use AI to support teaching and learning. It can be any AI tool. And I know there's about a 10-second delay on live webinars, so I have to wait painfully for those responses to start coming in. But this is something that we would love for you right now to go ahead and post to the meeting chat. How do you currently use AI to support teaching and learning? Let's take a look at some of those examples. And good morning and a special happy Valentine's Day to Dr. Michael Harvey. You found the link, who posted yesterday that he'd be joining from New Zealand, which means it's Valentine's Day already for him. You're up early, Dr. Michael. Let's take a look at some of these responses. So one of the most common things I hear about people using AI is Chat GPT. And that was certainly one of the first tools that we saw coming out in the world of generative AI. And so what's happened is we've kind of adopted the word Chat GPT as a noun when we're talking about generative AI. It's kind of like, maybe the word Kleenex, where we all call the brand name the same thing. But in reality, we have a variety of tools. And so we want to make sure that you're well aware of these tools. And even more importantly, the fact that they're free, secure for education, and running GPT-4 for no cost. So we want you to be able to be, saving your resources for more important things. We also want you to be saving time by using these tools effectively in the classroom. So let's jump in and start talking over what we mean when we say generative AI. So artificial intelligence, for example, is the ability of a computer or machine to perform tasks that normally require what we would call human intelligence. Now, we're not comparing AI to people. We know that people are still incredibly important. In fact, the tools that are being created are made by humans with their human thought and human brain. So that's incredibly important. However, when we think about AI as a whole, we're thinking about tasks that would normally be associated with a person. And instead, we're able to outsource those types of tasks to our assistant, our co-pilot, the person or tool that's helping us is going to just come alongside the prompts that we are giving it. We see AI in the world around us all the time. We rely on AI for many things already, whether you've realized it or not. We receive personalized recommendations on sites like entertainment and news, shopping. We receive assistance on spelling or grammar or writing mechanics through tools like Word Editor, or maybe you're paying for Grammarly, even though Word Editor does that for free, another way to save money. We also have financial assistance, so targeted advice from banking institutions, things like that. Individualized health plans, routing recommendations for maps, all of these things are creating an impact on education. We know that AI offers this immense potential to enhance education. We can take the tools that have been happening in the world around us and instead we can focus on using them to personalize the learning experience. And this is one of my favorite things to do with AI in general, is to be able to go in and really enhance and add value to education for students. And that's where you come in. AI, and specifically Copilot today, can empower you as educators to create these engaging, innovative, and inclusive learning environments. And ultimately, our goal is to prepare those students for the future. Not my future, but their future. And since we don't know what that will look like, it's important that we're embracing the changes as they come, that disruptive innovation that can sometimes, really shift in our minds, but we know that that's the future for our students. And as my friend Matt Miller would say, that's looking at education with tomorrow's glasses on. Microsoft Copilot and additionally Copilot with data protection are incredibly powerful, and they come through some really important breakthroughs that have happened in the past couple of years, making it now freely available to anyone in the world. So one of the first things that happened is we had this next generation large language model released by OpenAI. So key enhancements and advancements that have happened from GPT-3 to 3.5 and now to 4, which are making the models more accurate, faster, and more capable. In addition to that, Microsoft specifically has created a proprietary way of working with OpenAI that allows it to leverage the power of these large language models, or LLMs. The collection of these capabilities is called Prometheus, and you can look up and read more about that. Maybe you use Copilot to learn more about Prometheus. But our goal is to help you understand where this technology is coming from so we feel good about using it. This Prometheus model and Bing have applied AI to the core search algorithm to ensure that basic search queries are accurate, relevant, and most importantly, current. Well, excuse me, maybe that's not the most important. I'm a big fan of accurate and current, so maybe we have two most important results here. And finally, Microsoft has developed a new way for users to interact. Instead of typing a web search into a browser, we're pulled into a chat experience, unlocking a completely new way to interact with the internet. There are so many ways that we can think about using this in education specifically. So you might be using AI, generative AI, to simply find information. I use it every day to find information. You might be using it to create some engaging materials for your students, something that would have taken you maybe a long time, maybe high amounts of cognitive load or creativity, and instead you have an assistant who can help get you started on refining those materials to best fit the needs of your learners. You can also use it to inspire your learners, to enhance creativity with imagery and interesting new ideas. More importantly, we can use it to personalize learning. And I find as I work with educators, that's one of the top reasons they want to be using AI, is to be able to give students that assistance that you can't do for 20, 30, or more students all in one time. So that's incredibly exciting. We can also create standards aligned content and assignments. Of course, you will always use what AI has generated as a jumping off point to further tailor the needs for your learners because you know them best, but it's awfully nice to have something to start with. You can create high quality materials. I've recently created handouts or PDF to give students background on a topic that's coming up in class. And that's something that, because Copilot sources the information, I know is accurate and current. We can also design formative assessments. And that's something that's really powerful, is being able to take a website or a PDF and then on top of that, generate some formative assessment questions that allow us to further dig into students' understanding without having to create those assessments from scratch. So I hope you're excited about some of these items as we talk through them today. So Copilot, if we come down to the basics of what it can do for you, it can search results from across the web. And that's incredibly important because other models like ChatGPT's data set ends at January 2022. So if you're looking for information that is real time, Copilot is your better solution. I find it is much more effective for research because it's pulling from the web. It's not pulling from a locked data set. Copilot can actually be a little more confident in those responses because it's, again, the most updated information. Copilot can summarize responses to your specific questions and needs. And what's great about that is giving Copilot the opportunity to create the length of information that you want. Instead of feeling like you have to read a whole long paragraph, you can ask Copilot to generate a summary that fits your needs. Maybe it's a paragraph or 3 bullet points or a list of 5 items. Giving Copilot those parameters helps it know exactly what you need to move forward with your day. Copilot also provides links to content sources. This is incredibly important when we think about teaching students how to check the validity of information. Tools like Search Coach can help there as well, but making sure that students are well aware of where the information is coming from and then using lateral reading to follow those links and check the sources, the domains, the author, is there bias, all of these skills that we've been really focusing on for the last 20 years do not go out the window when we use generative AI. So that is an important part of Copilot. And finally, Copilot can be creative. We see Copilot coming up with problem-solving solutions, new ideas, because it's pulling from billions of data points all around the internet and then using those predictive analytics inside the algorithm to provide new and unique information tailored just for you. One thing to remember is that we can ask Copilot follow-up questions. So in a traditional web search where we type in our web search, we hit enter, and then we scroll through a bunch of websites looking for information. And if we don't find what we want, we have to start all over. With Copilot, we're able to ask follow-up questions like it's a conversation, an ongoing thread with the generative AI tool. So we can ask things like, can you explain that in simpler terms? Or give me more options. And Copilot will respond to that as we're staying in the same topic. So you don't have to provide additional context or even give extra information. Copilot is looking at the context of the entire conversation and then continuing that conversation with you. Don't forget that AI can make mistakes. That's because those mistakes already exist in the data. So AI is looking at existing data, right? Copilot's using billions of data points on the internet to provide its information. So if it pulls from a data point that already exists on the internet that happens to be wrong, it's going to provide that information. Similar to if you looked at that website it's pulling from and found an error. So it's important to use your own expertise and judgment here. Copilot is your assistant. It's not your replacement. It's there to help you, support you, and build productivity. So do double check those facts and linked sources. I, for one, almost never trust the information that's provided to me without double checking where it came from, including memes and stats I see on social media. And that's just a part of my personality. So I encourage you to embrace that and use tools that are providing context and sources before you repurpose them with confidence. You can also report inaccurate or inappropriate content using the thumbs down on the responses, which I'll show you in a moment. And that gives us an opportunity to help train the model for content that we don't think matches our needs. The other thing that you can do with Copilot specifically is look through your chat history. Your chats are saved if you're using the consumer or free open version of Copilot with a free Microsoft account. And so that gives you the opportunity to look back at those chats and edit them to shorten up the content. So if you're using Copilot, just be aware that you have the power to organize that information really effectively to give you the best user experience long term. And again, I'll show you this in a couple of moments, but we want to point it out now as a key differentiator. Another differentiator to keep in mind is if you're working inside a school system right now and you have an education account through Microsoft Education, you have the benefits of Copilot with data protection. And here's why that's very exciting. Your searches are not linked to individual user accounts. Your data is not being used to train the large language model. Your prompts and responses are not saved. They are secure, and no one at Microsoft can, or anyone, can view your data. And here's why that's important. When we're thinking about using Copilot or generative AI to provide information, maybe a feedback on our students' essays. Maybe we're asking it to provide assistance for writing an email to a family member who is having a difficult time with a student. We should not, capital not, be providing that personally identifiable information to an AI model without data protection, because it means that we're contributing that information to a data set that is publicly available. That's scary when we think about using these tools in education and just sharing our internal data, what should be private, out to a model that's then using that algorithm to train it. So it's incredibly important that if you're working in a school system, you're using the data protection tools that are given to you by logging into Copilot with your school or education system account. I cannot emphasize that enough. There are lots of ways to access Copilot. We want to make sure that you're aware of where to go as we start digging into some demo of Copilot today. So one is copilot.microsoft.com. I don't know about you, but I have made this my homepage in every profile I have in Edge browser because this is honestly how I start my day. I used to start with Bing as the homepage, and now I have it set to copilot.microsoft.com. So if you have me on a screen and you're listening or you have another device, feel free to visit there now and get ready to get started. You can also visit bing.com if you're used to that and click on the Copilot icon. If you're using Edge browser like I am, then you can use the Copilot sidebar in Edge browser, which is pictured here on screen for you, and that exists anywhere Edge browser exists. You can use the Copilot app on mobile. It's available for iOS and Android, so you can grab that from your device's app store and use it on any mobile device anytime. Super helpful. And if you're logged into your account, then those chat results will appear on any device that you access, so you can fluently go back and forth. You can also use Edge browser on a mobile device to access Copilot. There's an icon sitting right there in the bottom for you. So many different ways to jump into Copilot. If you've already launched Copilot with me, you might notice that there are 3 different conversation styles. This is important to know about. They work differently and they provide different types of information. Now, if you're on mobile, you'll want to go to the top right corner of your mobile app and choose, is it 3 lines or 3 dots? Choose the menu in the top right-hand corner and then choose Show All Tones or Show All Styles. And that's going to make sure these styles appear for you. Creative is the default conversation style in education. So if you're logged in to your education account right now in Copilot, you'll see that you're in creative mode by default. Creative is the most original, the most imaginative. Oh, excuse me, I clicked too soon. There we go. It's also the most comprehensive. And so we're going to get the best and most complete information out of creative mode. It's powered by GPT-4. And if you've heard GPT-4, posted about online, it's the most powerful of the AI models. Other apps will ask you to pay for GPT-4, but it's included as part of your free Copilot experience through Microsoft. So that's important. It is a place where you're going to get images, charts, a deeper analysis. You might get a link to a map, just that additional information because it's connected to the internet. It's pulling in additional content for you that might be helpful in your search. Balanced mode is more for kind of friendly, informative responses. That's the more standard chat experience. It will not include all of the charts, analysis, and imagery that creative mode has. So this is what's the default on the business side of Copilot, or a personal account has balanced as the default. And finally, precise mode, which I use when I'm in a hurry. So if I want to know something just very quick, I want straightforward, concise information, I'm choosing precise. Maybe I want 1 sentence or 3 bullet points, and precise is going to give that to me. It's recommended if you're wanting something fast that's grounded in web data, but also is going to give us the best straightforward information. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and jump in to Copilot and show you a little bit more about what this will look like. We did have a question in the chat as I go along here, and I want to make sure I answer that. So as I'm pulling up Copilot in a window, here we go. Copilot does not require a login to just do one simple search. So you can go to Copilot website, not even be logged in, and do a search. But if you want your data to be secure, you need to log in. If you want your data to be saved, you need to log in. If you want to create images, you need to log in. And Copilot's terms of use and Microsoft's terms of use say that students between 13 and 18 may use Copilot through their personal Microsoft accounts if they are over 13. Students who are over 18 may use Copilot with data protection through their school or university. For more information about Copilot and Microsoft's responsible AI, I'm just going to put a link here in the chat. You can go to aka.ms/RAI, and that's Microsoft's responsible use policies. All right, so let's jump in now to a little more information about, about Copilot. Here we go. So in our demo today, I want to just make sure that you're taking a look at a couple of different items. So I'm going to begin the conversation, and I want to go ahead and select balanced because I'm not looking for imagery or text analysis or charts or graphs today. I'm just going to pop in that I am an experienced biology teacher. Okay, and I want to create learning objectives for a unit about cellular respiration for a secondary biology class. Now, I just typed that in because, well, I pasted it in, let's be honest, because I'm doing a demo live and I don't want you to have to listen to me typing it in. But I could have used the dictate button. There is a dictate option right here in Copilot as well as the mobile app, so you're able to use dictate if you wanted it to. I'll go ahead and click the submit button, or you can press enter. And Copilot will request and generate a list of learning objectives related to my topic. It's really important to note here that even if we are using the exact same prompt, your results will be different than mine because it's generating these results uniquely and originally on the fly. So let's take a look at what is coming out of Copilot, and that's on my other screen, so you'll see me looking off to the side as I'm sharing with you on multiple monitors. So here's what Copilot responded. And you can see I have source links for where this information came from that's footnoted throughout the responses. There's also some information at the bottom, and let's talk a little bit more about that. So first I have the option to like or dislike this response. If I'm receiving something that's inappropriate or inaccurate, then I can choose the dislike option and make sure that I provide that feedback. I can also copy this content and then paste it into OneNote or a Word document or a Teams assignment, wherever I need that to go. I can export this content and save it as a text file that allows me to then manipulate it further. I can also share this response. So that pops up the same Windows sharing tools or device specific on mobile sharing tools that you would expect. I can also listen to this response being read aloud, and that's an important feature for accessibility and also for people who might be otherwise engaged with another activity. Someone just yesterday told me that she actually uses Copilot to learn like a question of the day. She posts something into Copilot, gets a big long answer to learn more about a special topic, and then listens to that as she's driving or as she's cooking, like you would a podcast. So what an interesting way to learn a little bit more about our world every day. You'll notice that I have one of 30. That's 30, not 30 chats. We get unlimited chats. That's 30 conversations within the same topic thread. So I can continue this conversation, and I'm going to do that now. I'm going to go ahead and continue with a follow-up. So here's one that's provided for me in Copilot. What are some common misconceptions, or how can I teach this to students? So what's neat about Copilot is it's prompting you to learn more, to dig deeper, based on, again, predictive analytics and also common web searches because it's connected to the internet. So it's continuing this conversation for me. Now, one thing I might want to do as an educator is continue by asking it to create a specific activity or to provide me with a rubric or a grade scale for these specific resources. I don't have to come out of the tool. I don't have to start a new conversation. If I wanted a brand new topic, I could do that. But I'm just continuing on through this conversation. And so Copilot reads that context and provides me with more details. So you'll see now this is 2 of 30. And right now I'm going to say, thanks. Can you create a one-day activity that helps learners compare and contrast aerobic and anaerobic respiration? So this is, again, just piling on to the conversation as we go along. And with each prompt, Copilot includes links to sources that are used to generate its response. So make sure to use those sources to fact check for information. When you select one of these sources, and just, I don't know how long this activity is going to be, so we'll give it just a moment to finish responding. And then I want to show you what happens when we select one of those sources. So we're in the research and presentation phase, reflection. We're wrapping up this lesson. And this gives me an idea of what I can do with my students. I can modify this to fit my students' needs or time frame. But what I love is that it's giving me a jumping off point, a place to begin. And that's 3 of 30. So scrolling back up to our first response, I had some of those sources. You'll notice if I go to visit one of these responses, it opens in a new tab and allows me to see that this is actually pulling from a PDF that's hosted out on the internet by usbiologyteaching.com. I can go to sciencebuddies.org. So it's working as if I had taken the hour or two to go out and look all over the internet, read these lessons, then combine the best parts of these lessons into one cohesive plan. What a giant time saver for me. I can also hover. So if I hover on one of the footnotes here, depending on how the site is coded, you will often get a pop-up that shows a preview of the website itself. So this is just an example of one conversation, and you'll notice because I'm using Copilot free with my Microsoft account, my personal Microsoft account, it's keeping track of that chat data right here. Now, if I want to start a new topic, a whole new conversation, I'll click New Topic, and that kind of resets the conversation and is now going to not think about the context of the existing conversation, but instead generate something completely new. So this time I'll use creative mode, and I'm going to tell Copilot what role it's taking right now. I'm going to tell Copilot that it's working like an experienced biology teacher. And I'm going to create learning objectives for a lesson about mitosis for a secondary biology class. Now, this is going to generate something new, and you'll notice that it's creating a new chat here in my chat history. It's going to generate this information, figure out what I need, and then at the end of this generation, you'll see that it titles the chat for me based on the content. So what I'm demonstrating right now is chat history. So I'm going to choose stop so we can see that happen. Learning objectives for a lesson. Now, if this is too long, we talked about earlier, I can fix that and edit that so that it's shorter and I have a better understanding of this particular chat. I can also delete a chat if I don't want to keep track of it anymore. I can share it and export it after it's over because these things are saved. So let's go back, for example, and look at the last chat I showed you online. All of the content is still there. So I can get back to this anytime if I need to learn more, and I can even follow this conversation. So I can ask Copilot to do more. Please create a rubric for this assignment with the same content that I created previously. So it's keeping track of the chat that I'm in right now, and then adding information into a rubric format. Now, our next webinar talks about elements of a good prompt, and I will show you how to refine this further, or the next piece, sorry, of this webinar specifically. But what I think is amazing is that we can treat these as conversations, returning to them anytime we need to. So I'm going to stop there, and hopefully that gives you a great idea of how to get started with Copilot specifically. Now, there are some things to keep in mind when we're talking about prompting. It's incredibly important that you are using some good prompt strategy for your prompting, because that's going to give you the best possible information. Okay, so I'm going to pause right now and just ask you to think about this question. How can you, based on what you've seen right here, how can you use Copilot to enhance teaching and learning for your classroom, for your teaching assignment, or for your students? Take a quick sip of water over here as well. So I know that some of you are going to be posting in the chat. You're welcome. I'm glad this is going well. And if anyone would like to post content about how they're using Copilot, you can do that. Or of course, positive feedback is always welcome as well. So let's move on to how we craft good prompts. I have a list of qualities of good prompts that you might want to consider as you are creating prompts. The first is to define clear objectives. The next is to be very specific. Third is to structure the prompt. Fourth is to combine expertise, yours with the AI tool. Next is to use a polite tone, because remember, we're training the model. Unless you're using Copilot with data protection, everything you add is going to be contributing to the algorithm learning how to respond and how to interact. So we want to teach it how to be polite, and also iterate and refine your prompt. That's an incredibly important part. So if you contributed a prompt already on your side, if you're trying this out with me, I'm going to help you by showing you how to refine your prompt to get the best possible responses. So let's look at what that looks like together. In this example, I'm asking Copilot to respond as a university faculty member. Then I'm going to ask Copilot to create an essay assignment description for students in an urban planning class. So this is higher education, and I've given Copilot a role to respond as a university faculty member. I've also given it a specific verb. I've used the verb create, and that's important because if I asked Copilot to find an essay description, it will look on the internet for existing content. But I don't want that. I want it to create something new. So this is a great start. Then I'm going to be more specific. I'm going to give Copilot the learning objective for this unit, which is defining problems and issues with gentrification. That gives Copilot some specificity so that its response aligns to my instructional goals. Then I'm going to structure the prompt. So here's where I tell Copilot what to do and what steps to take. Remember, Copilot is my assistant. I'm in charge. So I get to tell Copilot how to generate this information. I've done that by telling Copilot to brainstorm a list of grading criterion for essays students will write, and then create the assignment description. You can tell Copilot what steps to follow. You can also ask it to refine its own work. Finally, I'm combining my expertise because I know that I've given a lecture on the loss of social infrastructure, so my students need to include commentary on that in this essay. So I've added that to my prompt. I'm also going to make sure that you notice I'm using a word like please. Please create an essay assignment description. And what's great about this is giving Copilot the opportunity to get us through some results that fit exactly what I needed. When we're looking at refining these prompts, you want to keep in mind that Copilot is working off of the information you are giving. So the more specific you can be, the better. You're going to get more focused responses, the better job you do on your prompt. I tend to have great responses to Copilot. And in fact, people will even say to me, how did you get that out of Copilot? And I say, well, I spent some time writing my prompt. The more time and energy you spend on your prompt, the better responses you're going to receive, and the more time you will ultimately save. So I consider good prompt writing an investment in saving my time later because I don't have to iterate and refine quite so much. So here's me iterating and refining that prompt. I come in and I say, okay, now please create a rubric to score this assignment. I'd like to be able to save the rubric. I'm giving Copilot even more information and use it with my assignment. A table works best for me. And then thanks. So let's check out what happens when I ask Copilot to create a rubric for this assignment that it's just created and do that in a table. Now I could further explain that rubric and give it a point scale. I could give criterion. I could let it know how many points this assignment should be worth in total. Any of those details are going to be helpful, and all you have to do is add them into your prompt as if you were directing an intern to do it for you, maybe a teaching assistant. If you were going to put this in a Teams chat and ask someone to do it for you, give all those same details and then ask Copilot to do it for you. And then you don't have to wait for someone else to assist you. Who am I kidding? Most of us don't have assistants. That's why we're all using Copilot. All right, so you can see Copilot searches for a similar rubric and then creates a unique and original rubric based on information it finds online about other types of rubrics. And again, you can then adapt this to fit the exact needs of your class and your purpose. I can also continue this by exporting. You'll notice the little Excel icon in the right-hand corner. If I select that, I can download this straight into Excel, which means I can then, copy and paste and manipulate it in a really easy way. Oh, and I have a little, just a little demo of that. Okay. And it's exporting and opening in Excel. There we go. So beautiful and completely handy because then I can actually save this as a CSV and upload it directly into Teams. What? So exciting. Or any LMS. So I would love for you to be trying this. If you're looking to grab a screenshot, now is a good time when I get to the end of this slide to remind yourself of some of the steps you can take to be creating really great custom responses that allow you to use the best features Copilot has to offer by being more specific, clear, structured, by combining your human expertise with your assistant, and then iterating and refining to get exactly what you need. So I hope you've been trying this out. If we were in a session face-to-face, I would stop and walk around and ask you what prompts you did and how it went for you and how it got better. But since we're in a webinar style, I'm going to continue on with something extra exciting, which is layering on to text generation with image generation. Image generation by Microsoft is powered by DALL-E and built into Copilot. It generates images based on your text input. It's fully integrated into Copilot, so you don't have to go access another tool. It's just built right in. So you can do that in the Copilot chat by using a creative conversation style. So in copilot.microsoft.com, make sure you've selected creative conversation style and then start your prompt with an action word like create or draw, and that cues Copilot to generate a new image. You can also use the Edge browser sidebar, of course. Again, stay in creative mode and give it one of those verbs, create or draw. You can also use a tool called Microsoft Designer, and that's available at designer.microsoft.com, and it does all sorts of things that we're not getting into on today's webinar with image design and templates and sizing and all these extra features. And that's available through Microsoft Consumer or free personal account for you to log in and play with. But let me give you some tips on generating your images, and then we're going to try one together. So tip number one is to make sure you're in that creative conversation style. And number 2 is to use a format. So try giving Copilot specific information like adjectives, nouns, verbs, and even a style. That can generate some pretty specific content. So here in my sample, I've asked Copilot to draw a 3D letter B on a blue background with a fuzzy texture in a cartoon style. And you might be wondering why I had it draw a letter B. It's not B for Becky. If I'm teaching some young learners and I want them to be really engaged with the alphabet and learning letter sounds and phonemic awareness, I might decide to do some really interesting letters to get them thinking about how letters can look different while still giving them a structure of a letter. So in this example here, you can see I was looking for a video from Sesame Street for learning about letters. I pulled Copilot up right there on the side in Edge browser, asked it to generate a letter to go with this video activity that I'm doing. It takes about 23 seconds, so I'm going to skip ahead here. Don't be concerned if your image generation takes a little more time. That is normal. And you can see what images here are being generated. Then I can select one of these images, download it, and use it anywhere I choose. These images are my property. They're created by AI, and you can feel free to cite that when you use them, but they are unique and original. So I'm not having to worry about fair use guidelines or copyright infringement when I'm using these with my students or even publishing them on my school website. So if you would like to, we would love for you to open Copilot or use the Edge sidebar wherever you are right now. Select that creative conversation style and write a prompt to generate an image. Remember to use an adjective, noun, verb style. So I'm going to demo that right now. I'm going to start a new topic and I'll choose creative. And again, if we were doing this in real time, I would have you shout out some information to me. But since I'm doing this in a webinar style, I'm going to have to come up with it all by myself. So I'm going to start with those words, draw an image of, and I usually start with a color, just for demo purposes, a red. And then I need an animal, raccoon, a red raccoon. And then I need an activity. The red raccoon will be picking apples from a tree. And the tree is in the Arctic for some reason. And then let's add a style. So I'm going to do this. We're in a Microsoft webinar. Let's do this in Minecraft style. So we'll see that come in really blocky. Yours might take a moment, as I already kind of warned you or cautioned you. Don't be concerned about that. Think about what AI is doing right now. In 20 or 30 seconds, it's generating a new image that is unique and original based on the predictive patterns of images of red and raccoons and apples and trees and the Arctic and Minecraft, and it's compiling that together in 4 different images that you can then use however you wish. So it does take a moment. This is incredibly powerful AI, and I can't believe I would even be apologizing for something taking longer than a few seconds. But in the world of instant, that's kind of what we're used to. It had scrolled down to the bottom, so I scrolled back up. And here we have this raccoon. Oh, this is my favorite one. Let me click on that. And oh, it keeps scrolling down. I don't know why. Here we are. So this result is powered by Copilot, and you can see that I can share this, copy it, and I can also modify it in Designer right there in line and choose maybe a different style of a red raccoon picking apples from a tree in the Arctic. So very, very fun to try that out. We're going to move on now to our final piece before we end today on visual search. So I hope you're thinking of so many ways you can use this tool to engage your students, including, building characters and thinking about science and social studies concepts. But the next thing I want to talk to you about is visual search. So this is a button that comes automatically in Copilot. There is a little camera icon there in the conversation. The Edge sidebar has the same icon, and so do Copilot and Edge mobile apps, so you can do this anywhere. But basically, when you select that camera little photo icon, it gives you an opportunity to either upload a photo from your device or take a new photo if you're on a device with a camera, or paste in a link to an existing photo online. That doesn't mean a photo on a website. It needs to be a URL that ends in an image. So .jpeg, .png. Be considering that it needs to be an image hosted online. So often we have to select the image itself and just double check the URL. That it's just the URL of the image, not an entire website. So once you've selected that, what happens here, for example, is that I had here a link to an image of a cell. And I didn't know what kind of cell that was. I couldn't tell if it was a plant or an animal cell because it's been a bit since I took a biology, like maybe 30 years. Now that I think about it, it's been 30 years. So I'm asking Copilot to identify this cell and its components. You'll notice that Copilot analyzes the image, then responds with information about the image. How amazing is this for classroom use? It's also giving me some sources and some follow-up links for me to learn more. Now, something that's really interesting about that particular image is that it was labeled on the internet as a plant cell, and it's not. So Copilot ignored the URL of that image and provided me the correct information based on image analysis. And I find that extremely helpful. Another way that you can visual search with Copilot is if you're on a website with imagery, watch what happens as I hover. So I'm hovering on this image and I find the little visual search icon popping up there. And when I select that visual search icon, Copilot is bringing into Edge browser examples of that same image out on the internet and allows me to find links to places where that image also occurs and gives me more information about it. So visual search appears a couple of different places and again allows us to identify information we're finding online and get more information about it. Those of you who have, plants near you, you might be identifying plants this way, figuring out if it's a weed or if it's going to make beautiful flowers in the spring, and so on. So things to think about when working with images with AI. It's incredibly powerful, obviously. You can include phrasing like created by image creator from Microsoft Designer below your images if you use them with your students to just model that digital citizenship of citing sources. These are unique responses, but we still did not create them ourselves. You also want to check those search results for accuracy by following the source links. Make sure that you're reading the information, not just taking whatever it spits out as fact. And continue the conversation or even adjust your prompt to adjust the output for your needs. So at the end of this session, we have to talk about something serious, and that is the responsible use of AI. One of the most responsible things we can do, I've been saying this entire session, and that is to evaluate your results for accuracy. The ISTE standards for educators are a global set of standards that point us toward 7 key components of educators using technology in the best way possible for students. One of the ISTE standards is to be a citizen. And the definition of that is for educators to inspire students to positively contribute to and responsibly participate in the digital world. So we are called then to model this inspiration to our students. Specifically, Standard 2.3b of the ISTE stands for educators in the Citizen Standard. This indicator states that we are to establish a learning culture that promotes, not bans, but promotes curiosity and critical examination of online resources, fostering digital literacy and media fluency. And one of the best ways that we can do this is by using tools like generative AI and then critically evaluating the results. If you have an opportunity to use Microsoft Class Teams with your students, then you have the opportunity to use Search Coach. Search Coach is a tool and Search Progress is an assignment built into Microsoft Teams that allows us as educators to teach our learners how to form really effective queries and identify reliable online sources. Now, although Search Coach is not using generative AI, it's using a standard Bing search model. It gives us insight into how our students are thinking about critically evaluating those web results. We can walk our students through the importance of examining those online resources. We can model this through AI by using a precise conversation style if we're looking for really concise information. We can model this by reading the references that are up here very carefully. We can be asking Copilot to summarize existing information from a website or a PDF instead of just asking an open-ended response. We can also rephrase a prompt multiple ways to check the consistency of responses. You might do that 2 or 3 times and compare the different ways that you receive information back. You can also pose a variety of questions from different perspectives to see how the responses compare. And that is very fascinating. So give generative AI, give Copilot a different role from the perspective of. That's something that can change the way the responses are generated. And so doing that provides students the opportunity to get multiple viewpoints in a response. So some closing reminders here, if I haven't said it enough, check for accuracy, model digital citizenship, and encourage critical thinking in your learners. I have some takeaways for you as we wrap up here, right? I don't look exactly on time. Go explore Copilot. The best way you can learn about Copilot is by using it. Use it, gradually and incrementally. I find I use it more every day as I find more and more use cases that then are saving me time, adding to my productivity and efficiency, giving me information, and just being generally helpful. I will tell you one more example since I have one more minute. Yesterday, I saw a book sourced in an activity I was doing, and I wanted to learn more about this book. I looked it up online, and it was not freely available. It was a cost purchase, and I was trying to decide if I wanted to purchase this book or not. I used Copilot to give me a summary of the book. So Copilot looked on the entire internet for everywhere that book was sourced, cited, referenced, screenshot, and gave me a really great understanding of everything that was inside the book so I could make a better informed decision. These are things that were never before possible that you can be doing with yourself and with your students anytime. You can also visit the AI Hub for Education, and I know Stuart and Amelia are going to post these to the Q&A so that you can see these links and visit them on your own without having to retype them. Please post about today's session. You can always tag me, and you can also use the hashtag #MicrosoftEDU. And finally, if you want, you can subscribe to my collections on Wakelet. That's where you'll get an email about twice a month that gives you an update on anything that I've posted and an opportunity to learn more with me about how we use AI. And finally, you can receive credit for today's session through Microsoft Learn. You'll log in to Learn with your profile, go to Achievements, and then paste in the code that you see on screen, 5JGP43, and that will give you a 1-hour credit for enhancing teaching and learning with Copilot. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you've had a good time with me learning and growing. There is another session in about 8 hours. So if you know someone who's interested, make sure that you direct them to come join us and learn more about how you can use Copilot to make a difference. Thanks, everyone.